My family read my obituary at my funeral. Then I walked in holding the proof I was alive. They faked my death to take what didn't belong to them. The company, the money, the narrative. They turned me into a tragedy because I refused to be their puppet. And now? Now I'm taking my life back. They stood at the altar and mourned a son they tried to erase. But I was still breathing and watching. I didn't even hear the message come in. The noise of the warehouse drowned out everything. Forklifts backing up. Pallets clattering. Sweat and dust sticking to my neck like a second skin. My hands were bleeding again, split open from the cardboard, the cold, or maybe just exhaustion. I was between shifts, standing in the break room with a bag of stale trail mix and a cup of machine-brewed coffee when I checked my phone. 1 bar of service. 1 notification. Unknown number. Attachment. 1 video. I almost deleted it. Looked like spam. But something in me paused, that twitchy, quiet instinct that only shows up when the universe is about to ruin your life or rewrite it. So I hit play. It took me about 4 seconds to realize what I was looking at. The camera was shaky, probably a phone being held by someone in the back of a church. Before we go further, don't forget to like this story, hit subscribe, and tap the bell so you don't miss what happens next, the kind with thick red carpet and hymn books older than the town itself. Wooden pews. Candles flickering in dusty sconces. People I hadn't seen in years dressed in black, dabbing their eyes, holding tissues like props. Then the camera moved forward, and there she was. My mother. Marion Hale. She looked 10 years older. Same hairstyle, different color. Her hand trembled as she clutched a folded piece of paper, and I knew that paper. It was a eulogy. Matthew was a complicated soul, she said, her voice shaking. But he had a beautiful heart. I dropped the coffee. Didn't even realize it until it hit the floor and splashed against my boots. I stood there, unmoving, as the video continued playing. Because behind my mother, projected on a massive screen above the altar, was my face. A photo I hadn't seen in over a decade. Me at 23, smiling, a little drunk, holding my diploma in one hand and a plastic cup in the other. A moment frozen in time. A moment they turned into a tombstone. Though he left us far too soon, she continued. I sat down, slowly, on the grimy metal bench behind me. My legs wouldn't hold me anymore. Far too soon. I was 33. Alive. Working 12-hour shifts under a fake name. Sending money to people who never answer my messages. And yet here they were, burying me. Then came Liam. My brother. He walked up to the altar wearing a tailored black suit. Not 1 ounce of hesitation in his stride. He unfolded a note, cleared his throat, and smiled just enough for the room to call it grief. My brother struggled, he said. He left the country, trying to find himself. But his heart always stayed here. I blinked. Left the country? What the hell? I hadn't even left the state in 3 years. Unless you count Vermont, and I sure didn't. He went on. We'll never forget the impact he made. He was chaotic, yes, but he was ours. That word. Ours. As if I had been some stray dog they reluctantly let inside during a thunderstorm. The camera cut briefly to a close-up of the front row. Aunt Cindy dabbing her eyes. Uncle Rick holding Mom's hand. And the casket. White. Floral spray. Closed. Of course it was closed. There was no body. Because I wasn't dead. Just inconvenient. The video ended. And I sat there, stunned, feeling something cold crawl up my spine. Not sadness. Not grief. Not even anger. Just clarity. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't some clerical error. This was intentional. The signs were always there. I'd just been too tired to connect them. 2 years ago, I stopped receiving calls. Last year, my bank account got flagged. 6 months ago, a background check I didn't authorize locked me out of a job. 3 months ago, my email was deactivated. My records wiped from the university alumni system. I thought it was a glitch. An error. Now I knew better. They didn't lose me. They buried me. My phone buzzed again. Same number. This time, a short message. You weren't supposed to see that. I stared at the words. Cold. Flat. Final. I didn't reply. Not because I didn't have something to say, but because I knew this wasn't the time for texts. This was the time for war. I stood up, still shaking, and grabbed my backpack. I walked out of the warehouse, ignoring the shouting supervisor behind me. I didn't even clock out. I just kept walking. Into the freezing dark. Into the storm they thought I'd never crawl out of. And with every step, I whispered to myself, they want to be gone. But I'm not gone. I'm just getting started. They said I died in a car crash overseas. There was no crash. Just a document, a lie, and a signature that was never mine. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the edge of a lumpy motel bed, surrounded by flickering fluorescent light, peeling wallpaper, and the buzz of a Coke machine that sounded like it was coughing up its last breath. My boots were still wet from the walk, my phone was at 6%, and my thoughts were at war. I didn't cry. Not once. I didn't scream, or punch a wall, or drown in a bottle. All I did was stare, at the wall, at the screen, at my own reflection in the black TV. Because when they fake your death, what dies first isn't your name. It's your anchor. You start questioning everything. Was I ever part of this family? Was I always disposable? How many people knew? And worse, how many didn't even care? By sunrise, I'd made up my mind. If they wanted me buried, they better be damn sure I stayed that way. Because now, I was digging my way back out. Step 1. Find the paper trail the death notice said I died overseas. Abroad. No country. No hospital. No flight number. Just a tragic car accident. Sounded dramatic enough to stop people from asking questions. Generic enough that no one could check it. Except I could. I started with public death records. In the state of Vermont, where I was born, there was no official record of my death. Same in New Hampshire. Same in Massachusetts. But on a small local news site, buried beneath stories about high school sports and bake sales, there it was, a digital obituary. Matthew Hale, 33, passed away last April while traveling abroad for work. He is remembered by his family as vibrant, creative, and deeply loved. Memorial donations can be made to the Hale Family Foundation. The name made my skin crawl. Because there was no Hale Family Foundation. Not when I was still around, anyway. But now that I was gone, they built one, and they were collecting money in my name. Step 2. Follow the money. I searched the foundation's registry. Sure enough, it was filed under my parents' address, with my brother Liam listed as executive director. I traced their EIN, the tax number used for nonprofits, to a bank in Rockwell. That bank used to hold my accounts. Until I got locked out last year without warning. And now I knew why. Next, I tracked down the death certificate. Filed in state. Not international. Not through consulate services. Just quietly slipped into the system, as if I'd passed away in town and no one noticed. I paid a small fee for a digital copy. It came in less than 2 minutes. The cost? Fatal collision while abroad. Physician signature? Untraceable. There was no hospital ID. No agency stamp. No official coroner report. But what it did have? A witness signature. Reported by Liam Hale. There it was. Black ink on white paper. My brother, the same kid who once cried because I wouldn't let him borrow my car, had signed off on my death. And the state had accepted it. No questions asked. I closed the laptop and leaned back, staring at the ceiling. There was no longer any doubt. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was premeditated erasure. I dug deeper. Opened up our grandfather's estate documents. The last time our whole family had been in the same room. That man loved me. He didn't trust Liam with a pair of scissors, let alone the business. Before he passed, he told me, Matthew, this company was built with blood and busted knuckles. I don't care about charisma. I care about grit. That's why it's yours. He left everything, and I mean everything, to me. Property, patents, majority control of Hale Industrial, and a personal letter that said, you're the only one who stayed when it got hard. Don't ever hand this over just to keep the peace. I hadn't, and I paid the price for it. After the funeral video, I rechecked the company website. Liam's face was plastered across the homepage. New CEO. New mission statement. Quotes that sounded suspiciously like ones I had used in strategy meetings years before. And beneath all of it, a donation link. In honor of my late brother, the visionary who inspired this legacy. The audacity made me sick. He had turned my life into his origin story. Step 3. Contact a witness. There was one person I knew might still talk to me. Kai. My cousin. Quiet, thoughtful, a few years younger, and always more of a brother to me than Liam ever was. I found his number and sent a single message. Kai, it's me. I saw the funeral. I'm alive. Don't tell anyone, but I need to talk. 3 minutes later, the typing bubbles appeared. Holy sh*t. Are you serious? 100%. What the hell happened? That's what I'm trying to figure out. They told everyone you were in a crash. Said there was nothing left of the car. Your mom cried for hours. But you believed it? Not really. But it felt like I wasn't allowed to question it. Can we meet? Yeah. But you didn't hear this from me. They're hiding something big. Like, bigger than you think. My chest tightened. Because I was already thinking big. Fake death certificate. Forged signatures. Inheritance stolen. Money laundered. What the hell else was there? I booked a one-way bus ticket to Rockwell. I didn't know what I'd find when I got there. But I knew what I was bringing. The fake documents. The original will. My face. My rage. And soon, they'd have to look me in the eyes and say, "We thought you were dead." They didn't just bury me. They used my name to build an empire and handed it to the one person who never earned it. Rockwell hadn't changed much. Same crooked welcome sign. Same gas station with burnt-out lights. Same cracked sidewalks I'd walked as a kid, dreaming of escape. But this time, I wasn't driving through it. I was coming back for answers. Kai met me in the alley behind Brewhouse Cafe. Hoodie up. Hands in his pockets. Eyes darting. When he saw me, his jaw dropped. Jesus, Matt. I thought it was fake. But seeing you, still breathing, I said, offering a dry smile. We didn't hug. We didn't joke. We just stood there in the cold, holding the weight of 1,000 unspoken questions. He handed me a flash drive. These are from my dad's computer. Don't ask how I got them. I nodded. I won't. Back at my motel, I opened the folder. Hundreds of files. Some were emails between Liam and their lawyer, Brody Sharp. Others were scanned forms. Wire transfers. Meeting notes. Each one more damning than the last. Document. Estate reallocation. Final draft. It was dated 2 weeks after Grandpa died. Signed by my parents and Liam. Not by me. It included a full transfer of Hale Industrial's ownership, property deeds, liquid assets, and public branding to Liam Hale. Notes at the bottom. Narrative of departure to be established. Avoid media. Narrative. They didn't report my death because it happened. They wrote it. Document. Hale Foundation. Donor pitch template. A full deck. Branding. Mission statement. Press quotes. And a fabricated origin story. After the tragic loss of his older brother, Liam Hale created the Hale Foundation to continue Matthew's legacy of innovation and generosity. They even included my old college volunteer work as part of the pitch. The footage from my Habitat for Humanity trip in sophomore year, cropped, recaptioned, used to convince donors that Liam was the one carrying on the family mission. They didn't just steal my future. They rewrote my past. I slammed the laptop shut and buried my head in my hands. I wasn't angry. Not exactly. I was violently heartbroken. They hadn't grieved me. They'd repackaged me, turned me into a stepping stone for Liam's career, into a sob story to sell to investors, into a tax shelter. And worst of all, it worked. Kai sent me one last message before going dark again. You need to look at the board members. Some of them knew. You were never legally removed. They just went along with it. So I did. I pulled up the Hale Industrial Registry, and guess what? The official business ownership had never been updated properly. The forged documents had been quietly accepted by a notary hired through Brody. But the state system still listed. Primary owner, Matthew Hale. The title was still mine. The business, still mine. The only thing they had was public opinion. And I was about to take that back. I called Tess Roy. I gave her everything, the fake death certificate, the emails, the pitch deck, the foundation's donation logs. She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "This isn't just fraud, Matthew. This is identity theft, estate manipulation, potential criminal conspiracy. So what do? You do something they'll never see coming, which is, you come back. Officially." She filed the paperwork to reverse the death certificate. We scheduled a meeting with the state probate office to present the original will and contest every asset transfer that occurred in my absence. We also sent cease and desist letters to Hale Industrial, the Hale Foundation, Brody Sharp, and Liam himself. I was no longer playing defense. Now I was the one calling the meeting. The most surreal part? The more we pushed, the more people started remembering me. Old employees messaged me. Wait, you're alive? I never believed that obituary. I was there when you signed that original doc with George. I knew something was off. Liam always dodged questions about the will. Now I know why. My name, my real name, started resurfacing. Not as a headline. As a warning. Be careful who you bury. They might dig their way out. I walked past the Hale building one afternoon, just to see it. There was Liam's face on a banner out front. Vision. Growth. Legacy. Funny. He had none of those. But I had proof. I walked in. Didn't say a word. Just handed the receptionist a folder labeled Heir Returns, Legal Ownership Challenge. Inside were documents that would shake the walls. And when she opened it, her eyes went wide. Should I call someone? I smiled. Tell Liam his brother says hi. I walked out, back into the cold. And as I zipped my coat, I realized something I hadn't felt in years: control. They stole my story. But I had the pen back in my hand. They faked my death. I faked my silence. Now the law knows what I've known all along. I never left. If walking back into my old life felt like crawling out of a grave, then walking into that courtroom felt like a rebirth. Tess Roy met me outside the Rockwell County Courthouse. She was dressed like a woman ready for war, sleek black suit, hair in a sharp twist, red folder under one arm. She didn't say much. She didn't need to. I'd already handed her everything. And now it was time for the law to hand me back. The clerk barely looked up as I signed in. To them, I was just another petition on the docket. But I wasn't here for a parking dispute or a property line. I was here to reclaim my existence. Because on paper, I was still dead. The death certificate said so. So did the fake obituary. So did every lie Liam had spun into a press release. But now I had everything they didn't expect me to live long enough to bring. We entered courtroom 2B at 10:04 a.m. Hardwood floors. Stale air. That faint scent of old paper and nerves. Judge Cheryl Wexler sat behind the bench, gray hair in a braid, half-moon glasses low on her nose. Known around Rockwell for three things: being brutal with liars, allergic to nonsense, and terrifyingly good at remembering details. Perfect. Tess stood. Your Honor, this is a petition for rescission of a death certificate and full restoration of identity under the Vital Records Protection Act. Wexler tilted her head. You're telling me this man, Mr. Matthew Hale, is not deceased? Correct. Despite an obituary, a certificate, and a memorial service held in this very town? Tess didn't flinch. All falsified, Your Honor, by members of his immediate family for financial gain. That made Wexler pause. She looked at me. Mr. Hale, are you prepared to verify your identity before the court? Yes, ma'am. I stepped forward. One by one, I handed over the evidence. Birth certificate fingerprint scans matched with hospital records, employment records from the last 3 years, a notarized video statement from Dr. Lovano, my childhood physician. Verifying identity, the original will from my grandfather, the forged estate documents Liam had filed after I was gone. Then I pulled out the final piece. This, I said, is the fake death certificate my brother submitted. It says I died in a car crash overseas. I have never left the country. I don't even have a passport. The judge sat silently for a long time. Then she looked at Tess. Has the state verified these claims? Yes. The Department of Records issued a flag on the original certificate. There's no matching report abroad. No airline manifest. No coroner involvement. The document was forged. And the family? Tess smirked. Conveniently unavailable. Judge Wexler leaned forward. Let me be clear. This is not just a clerical matter. What you're alleging, and what you've provided ample evidence for, is a conspiracy to fabricate the death of a living man. That carries civil and criminal implications. I swallowed, steady. I'm not here for revenge, Your Honor. I'm here to live. Again. She nodded once, then stamped the folder in front of her with a sharp crack. Effective immediately, the court rescinds the declaration of death for Matthew Hale. All legal rights and records are restored. State departments will be notified within 48 hours. I exhaled. Not just relief. Release. Outside the courthouse, Tess turned to me. You're not just alive now. You're a problem they can't sweep under the rug anymore. I nodded. Then let's start turning up the volume. That night, We made it public. Not in a press conference. Not through a lawyer's memo. Just me, sitting in front of a window. Calm. Direct. Honest. They said I died. They held a funeral. Took my name off the family tree. But I'm still here. And now, so is the truth. I posted the video to every platform. Within 24 hours, over 3 million views. The internet exploded. He came back from the literal dead and brought the receipts. This is what rich families do when someone gets in the way of the money. We need a Netflix doc yesterday. I started getting messages. People who knew me. People who thought they did. People I hadn't seen since college. Is it really you? They told us you OD'd. I always felt something was off. Even some of the board members at Hale Industrial reached out. One of them, Janet Crowley, scheduled a meeting off the record. She admitted she'd never seen an original will. Just copies brought in by Brody. She thought I'd fled the country, that I'd wanted to disappear. They used your name to build a brand, she told me. And Liam used that brand to make himself a star. So we hit them where it hurt, the brand. Tess filed formal ownership challenge letters with the State Corporation Registry, the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, the IRS, and the Small Business Oversight Board. Each letter contained proof of my original legal ownership, confirmation of identity restoration, evidence of fraudulent transfer, a notice of pending suit if the changes weren't reversed, and the cherry on top? We sent a copy to every major donor who'd ever given to the Hale Foundation. 3 days later, the donation stopped. 2 major partners pulled out. And Liam posted a story to Instagram of a sunset over the ocean with the caption, "Sometimes it's better to stay silent." That's when I knew he was panicking. But me? I finally slept that night. Not because it was over, but because I was finally me again in the eyes of the law, the world, and most importantly, myself. They read my obituary in front of 100 people. I let them finish, then I stood up. I wasn't going to go. Honestly, I thought I'd moved past it. I had the documents, the court rulings, the law on my side. What more could I want? But then I got the flyer. A mailed, printed, glossy invite. A community celebration of life for Matthew Hale. Posted by the Hale Family Foundation. Donations encouraged. They were still doing it. Still selling me. Still turning my name into a brand. And not just quietly, publicly. Like I didn't exist. Like I hadn't already unbared the truth. So I made a decision. Not out of vengeance. Not for drama. I went because they needed to see what they tried to erase. The memorial was held at Oakside Chapel, same place they faked it the first time. Small-town church. Red brick. Sloped roof. Stained glass of an angel I used to stare at during Christmas services when I was a kid. I arrived 15 minutes early. Not to prepare. To watch. People started trickling in. Faces I remembered. Some old teachers. A few former neighbors. Men in suits. Women in dark dresses. Quiet murmurs and soft hellos. Like any other funeral. Except this wasn't for a man who died. It was for a man they tried to kill off with silence. I stayed in the back until the music started. The pianist played to him. People bowed their heads. And then my mother took the stage. Wearing black. Pearl earrings. Hairpin tight. Matthew was my firstborn. And my heart broke. He lived fiercely. But not always wisely. I froze. Even now, she couldn't resist twisting the knife. Then came Liam. Crisp suit. Hands folded. Practiced grief. My brother meant the world to me. I only wish we'd had more time. More time? You had decades. You just didn't want me alive during them. And then the pastor invited people to share memories. A woman stood and told a story about Matthew always being the first to help rake leaves. A man recalled the energy I brought to high school debate. They were talking about me like I was a memory. And that's when I stood up. Row 10. Left aisle. Slow. Deliberate. Someone gasped. Then another. Liam turned. Our mother froze. The pastor's jaw dropped. "Excuse me," I said, walking toward the pulpit. "I have a few words." No one stopped me. They couldn't. Because I wasn't a ghost. I wasn't a rumor. I was real and standing right in front of them. I took the mic, paused. Let the silence settle. Some of you don't recognize me. That's okay. I haven't been around. Not by choice. But by design. Gasps. Whispers. See, this memorial wasn't built on loss. It was built on lies. They told you I died in a car crash. They told you there was no body. No goodbyes. But I'm standing here. Because I never died. Someone stood up. A cousin. Wait, is this a joke? No, I said. It's the truth. And I've got the court documents, notarized rulings, and press coverage to prove it. I pulled a folder from my bag. Held it up. This is everything. The forged death certificate. The estate theft. The foundation scam. Every cent they collected in my name. Every lie they printed. Liam looked like he'd swallowed a live wire. Our mother? She didn't even blink. She just stared. I kept going. They faked my death to take what didn't belong to them. The company. The money. The narrative. They turned me into a tragedy because I refused to be their puppet. And now I'm taking my life back. You could have heard a pin drop. The pastor stepped forward, unsure of what to say. I handed him the folder. I suggest you read that before the donation basket makes its rounds again. And then I walked out. Past the pews. Past the stunned faces. Right out the front doors into the sunlight. Outside, the reporters were already waiting. Someone must have tipped them off. I didn't run. I stood there. Let them ask. Mr. Hale, are you suing your family? Is it true you were legally declared dead? What's next for you? I smiled, tired but steady. What's next? Living. On my own terms. That night, my name trended again. Only this time, it was connected to truth. Man declared dead crashes his own funeral. Hale Family Foundation under investigation. The brother who came back. I got texts from people who'd once ghosted me. I had no idea. I'm so sorry. Can we talk? And from Liam? Nothing. From my mother? A voicemail. You've embarrassed this family beyond repair. To which I thought, good. Now they match how I felt all these years. They want to be gone. I came back. Not to be loved. Not to be forgiven. I came back to be free. The next morning was quiet. No texts. No emails. No threats. No fake apologies. Just the sun rising through my apartment window and the slow, grounding sound of the world moving on without my family in it. I didn't check social media. Didn't refresh the articles. Didn't look for updates about the fall of the Hale family. Because I didn't need to anymore. I wasn't part of that narrative. Not the story they wrote. Not the lie they sold. Not the legacy they hijacked. I made coffee. Took it out onto the little balcony of the townhouse I now called home. It was nothing fancy, just a second-floor rental above a bakery and a bike shop. But it was mine. And for the first time in years, that was enough. I spent the next week filing the final paperwork. Transfer of Hale Industrial assets back into my name, closure of the Hale Family Foundation for fraud, formal charges submitted to the State Fraud Division, personal letter to donors explaining the truth. With full transparency, I didn't name-call. I didn't rage. I didn't humiliate. I told the story straight, clean, undeniable, letting the truth do what it does best when it's finally allowed to breathe. Tess called the night the charges were accepted. You sure you don't want to press for damages? No, you'd win, Matthew. Easily. I know, I said. But I don't want to win in court. I already won where it counts. And where's that? In the mirror. I thought freedom would feel loud, explosive, cinematic. But really, it felt like this. A quiet apartment. Bills with only my name on them. A plant that I remembered to water. The ability to wake up without bracing for impact. I never called my mother. Never responded to Liam. Last I heard, they were being investigated for estate fraud, and Brody, their family lawyer, was negotiating a plea deal. The irony? They had tried so hard to build an empire, and all they did was dig a grave. People kept reaching out after the story broke. Some asked for interviews. Some offered book deals. One woman told me I helped her escape her narcissistic father, said watching me stand at my own funeral gave her the courage to file for emancipation. I cried after reading that one, because it reminded me that this wasn't just about reclaiming my life. It was about lighting a path for anyone who's ever been cut out, shut down, or told they were too much for daring to exist on their own terms. 3 months later, I stood on the dock behind my grandfather's old cabin, the one place I still felt tethered to the version of me before all this. I brought the final court document, the one that officially voided the fraudulent death certificate. I burned it. Let the ashes drift into the water. Let the fake, and they wrote for me dissolve. And I whispered, "Goodbye, Matthew." The one they tried to bury. Because that version of me? He died the day I realized survival isn't silence. It's speaking when your voice shakes. It's walking back into rooms that told you to disappear. No, I don't answer to ghosts. Not the ones they created. Not the ones they became. I answer to me. Final reflection, I didn't get the apology. I didn't get the family dinner. I didn't get the fairy tale. But I got something better. I got my life back. I got my name back. I got to wake up. Not from death, but from being invisible. And I'm never going back. The end. Or maybe just the beginning.